million TV channels back then. I think one of the main ones was in a bedroom. Getting into the franchise, I knew that Star Wars was huge, but I didn't know how big Star Wars was until I went to my very first convention, which was Celebration 2. And I had these 5 bodyguards that surrounded me, wouldn't let anyone touch me, look at me, or take photos of me. And I'm like, what's going on? And people were running across, main streets, trying to stop me in public. Public?
Yeah.
Is that what I'm looking for?
Yeah.
Something like that. And I just was blown away. And from that moment on, I really immersed myself into the Comic-Con world, and I really fell in love with Comic-Cons just as much as you guys have.
So you said you weren't aware of its popularity, but were you familiar with the franchise as a whole?
No, I was living in a hobbit hole. So, like literally that hobbit hole. So I had no idea, because, most people, I'm the biggest Star Wars fan now. I mean, I have a group on Facebook called Bounty Boxes, and I invite everyone who comes to my table to come join it, because over the last 20-something years, 23 years, I've become one of the largest collectors of Star Wars collectibles, which most people don't really realize. And I never thought it was that cool to start advertising people back in the day. But I've probably collected hundreds of thousands of toys and collectibles from the Star Wars franchise. And it's funny because I would go to conventions and my wife would be like, okay, how did you do this weekend? I'm like, oh, I did pretty good. She's like, okay, how much do you have now? I'm like, well, I bought a whole bunch of Star Wars toys. She's like, more Star Wars? And I'm like, yeah, but it's an investment. Like, trust me, these things are gonna go up in value one day.
So you're really just doing these cons to pay for your obsession?
Yeah. Well, for I guess a Star Wars addict, it's about the chase, and you never know walking around these booths what you will find.
Right.
Just sitting in someone's booth, and so I chased for years and years and years, and I would take sometimes majority of what I made at Comic-Cons, and I would just buy Star Wars toys. So I ended up with hundreds of thousands of toys, and so going back, when I first got into Star Wars, I had no idea what it was, because in New Zealand we were about 30 years behind the rest of the world.
Sure.
But I also grew up in a time period where between episode 6 and episode 1, there was no Star Wars for 15 years,
right.
16 years or something like that. And that's the generation I was born into, So there was no Star Wars being played at the theaters. There was no repeats on Bravo TV or whatever of a trilogy being repeated constantly. So I had no idea until I actually got the audition what Star Wars was, and then I had to do my research from then, and then I fell in love. I mean, like pretty much all you guys, it became a very big part of my life.
You mentioned your audition. Going back a little bit, your rugby, as I understand, is how you got into acting, which is not normally how this goes. Can you talk about how you got into the field?
Yes, I used to run around the field, being tackled and tackling, and I really wanted to be a rugby player. And that's what I was aspiring to become as an All Black, which is New Zealand's largest rugby team. And a commercial for a milk ad came at my rugby club. And my coach was like, hey, Kiwi, no, that's what he calls me. I was called Logie. Hey, Logie, I'm going to put your name down and my son's name down for this audition. Can you make it? And I'm like, yeah, sure, I can make it. So my Nana, my grandmother, she took me, she would do the same kind of life as I'm doing now. She was a singer, so she would go from like these things called an RSA to RSA, on every other night and perform. So during the day, she had plenty of time. So she took me along for the audition, and I ended up getting the role. And from there, this lady from an agency in Australia, she fell in love with me and was like, "Hey, can I get your son more work?" To my mom. And meanwhile, my mom had 6 mouths to feed. She was like, "Oh yeah, he can do more work. Yeah, it's gonna be great for us. I mean, for him." So then I ended up getting role after role, and then she said, "You're actually getting pretty popular. A lot of people are really interested in you. I'm going to have to get you an agent." So then my agent ended up falling in love with me, and then anything that was from the age of as Boba Fett was meant to be between 10 and maybe 13, maybe younger, all the way up to 30. No, just joking. You know, anything that came by, she would put my name down. And I was going out there and I was getting all these auditions and landing the roles. And Star Wars came, and I never forget the call. She called me. She was hyperventilating, like, I got you an audition. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, sure. Send me the script and I'll get this thing like I get everything. And she's like, no, Daniel, you don't understand. And I'm like, what? She's like, you're not gonna get this. And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, it's for Star Wars. I'm like, oh, okay, well, send me the script. And at the time, there was no script because people weren't meant to know that Boba Fett was going to be reprised in Attack of the Clones. And we kept that very secret.
Right.
Pretty much up until the movie came out. And I'll never forget her telling me, she says, Daniel, you're not going to land this role. But the greatest thing is from now on, we're going to be able to sell you as the kid who auditioned to be the kid in Star Wars. And that was going to be the highlight of my life. Like, you know, and I was going to put on my resume, like, I auditioned for Star Wars, you know? And they said I auditioned out about 3,000 children worldwide. And yeah, you're telling me.
Right.
And I managed to land the role. And everyone was blown away. They were like, how did you get this role? Like, this wasn't meant to be, you know? And I talk to Tim Whittemarson now, and he's very much like a father of mine. I mean, he's a really great guy, and if you guys have the chance to meet him, I highly suggest you go and meet him. He is one of the most loveliest men I've met in my life. And he tells a story like, yep, they picked me, and then we had to go around and try to find the kid version of me. So I'm like, oh, okay. And one of his stories is he was driving in New Zealand, and on the way to some of the auditions, and he ended up getting pulled over for speeding by a police officer. So he pulls over, and he's like, hello, officer, today is your lucky day. And the officer's like, what? He goes, do you know who I have sitting here in my passenger seat? And they're like, no. He goes, it's the casting director for Star Wars. Now, if you just let me go, you can pick any character you want to be in Star Wars. And obviously he got the ticket, so the officer didn't get a role in Star Wars. But that's kind of how I got introduced and how I got the opportunity to be in Star Wars.
You were in an earlier in your career. You were in an episode of Hercules, correct?
Yeah.
It was directed by Bruce Campbell.
Yeah, you got it.
Who is part of this con circuit now, which is funny.
Yep. Yeah, that was a cool opportunity. That was one of the largest sets that I had worked on at the time, and they actually built all these amazing sets in New Zealand and Auckland. And I went down, and I'll never forget. I forget the guy's name that was my father, but I was this little demon child, and I was meant to swipe at him, but they were like, "Don't hit him, but swipe," you know, and we can camera angle it to make it look like you hit him. And as soon as I moved my arm, it came forward, and I smacked him straight in his face. And I'm like, and he's like, no, it's okay, you did good, like, you can do it again. So Hercules was great. I loved working on Hercules.
You mentioned that your the celebration was that how did you? I mean, from there going forward, I imagine you were still young. How were you able to concentrate? Like, can you really handle that fame at that age?
You know, I don't think any kid is prepared and ready for fame at that age. I mean, it's not something that we're all born, you know, with this, yes, I'm going to be this age and I'm going to have this type of limelight. But I was able to have someone, my Nana, who was very much my mother growing up, and she really humbled me and taught me that, you know, there's a responsibility here, you know.
Right.
And although I was very young, I was very intrigued, you know, especially with how much Star Wars had already touched other people's lives. It wasn't until I got on MySpace. Remember MySpace? And I got all these people like, you sucked. You weren't out Boba Fett. You know, and I grew up with my big brothers that beat me up my whole life. So I was pretty tough.
And Star Wars fandom is, I'm a huge Star Wars fan, is the worst.
Yeah. Look what's going on.
We're awful to each other. We really are.
Boy, Acolyte, you know, thinking what the prequels got when I was around, you know, and so I'm like, oh yeah, you want to meet up and fight? And people are like, my agents and managers be like, Daniel, you can't be writing that
Right.
back. I'm like, but this guy's bullying me, you know? They're like, who cares? Like, so they took me off of social media, you know? Poor kid, boy. If I was only around to help him out when he was going through it, you know? And we just had two different ways of dealing with it,
Right.
you know? I just always dealt with bullying, like, you know, in a different way, I
Right.
guess. Not saying that I would like to bully back, but it was pretty brutal. I mean, in the beginning, yeah, being a kid and being picked on by
Right.
grown adults,
Right.
being told that I sucked, and you know, I was the worst thing that happened to Boba Fett, and now it's amazing, you know, and Hayden Christensen and all them start coming out. They start doing Comic Cons after the prequels. Now the fan base is now growing to adults.
Right.
They've got jobs now, and they come and they want to see their Star Wars and their actors, and I kind of giggle to myself. I'm like, man, I went through all the hard times for you guys just to walk into this fan base that is now grown of age,
Right.
that now love and adore you all, you know. And
Well, Ewan has been vocal about the fact that he tried to distance himself for a while until he got to start doing cons, and you realize, like you said, people grew up with it, are now coming out and supporting it, and it's been a wonderful experience for him.
oh yeah, I walked by, when I was sitting right next to Peter Mayhew, Jeremy Bullock, Kenny Baker, and they would just look at me like, they go on to one of the originals,
Right.
and I'm like,
Yeah.
sat there with a smile. But I think for me, it was kind of great because at that time I just take the little money that I made and I would just go around to the booths and buy Star Wars. You know
Right.
what I mean? And then people are like, "Where's Daniel Logan? Why is he never sitting at his booth?" And there I am. I'm at other people's booths, buying their stuff. I'm like, how many autographs do I need to sign so I can get that one from you? And just wheeling and dealing at like 13, 15 years old.
That's funny.
So, but I mean, for me, with like my group that I created on Facebook, it's everything that I wanted from social media. It's a great place where people can just be fans of Star Wars, sharing the same passion and love, and everyone's so supportive. And I say to people, "Oh, do you have Facebook?" And a lot of people, "Oh, I don't go on Facebook. It's turmoil and whatever." And I'm like, "Yeah, but this is a different part of Facebook,
Sure.
And then I get people who I've invited, and then they come back later on and say, "You know what, Daniel, thank you so much for inviting me. Like, you were right. I love your group. It's like just kindest, loving people." And they'll do like secret Santas to each other at Christmas. And like people send each other like special gifts or birthdays and stuff like that. And it's what I think social media was really designed for.
Right.
Then people just became opinionated.
Right.
We're able to give all their opinions.
I don't know. A lot of people are saying a lot of nice stuff with Alkalate on Facebook.
You give it 20 years. Give it 20 years.
Yeah.
And they're like, that was the greatest Star Wars ever. You know what I mean? It's kind of the same thing as prequels, And it was made by the man himself, George Lucas.
Right.
And I think it's a little bit more harshly criticized now because George Lucas isn't at the realm.
Right.
So you're not getting the stories by the man himself,
Right.
who was our storyteller. But, I just try to say, I think as now being an adult, we have to step back and think about the next generation. And if it's catering to them and it's giving them an immersed world to be able to, immerse themselves in and forget about the day-to-day hassles and miseries and stuff that we deal with, then we got to look at the positive in that
Right.
aspect of it,
Right.
because Star Wars has always been, especially for me ever since getting into the role, it's been an opportunity to escape, and everything that George Lucas did, he allowed you to be immersed in this different universe that was nothing to do with the world that we live in today. But this new generation, everything's catered to the world of today.
Right.
So it's just a different generation, and give it 20 years.
Yeah.
Give it 20 years. It sounds like a long time, but trust me, it goes by fast.
Does anybody have any questions? If you want to line up behind the microphone there.
Yeah, I'm going to record this if you don't mind. Sorry.
Yeah.
So actually, you did mention that you're a collector of Star Wars stuff, and being a fellow collector myself, I accumulated quite a mass collection. So my question to you is, what is probably the most expensive item in your collection? And to piggyback on that, have you actually bought something, signed it, and sold it for more money? 'Cause that's a good idea.
There's the racket right there.
Oh, look at the time. All right, guys, thanks for listening to my Q&A. No, so I'm the most expensive thing in my collection, if you ask my wife, by continuing buying more stuff. But I I have tons. I have a carded vinyl cape Jawa. Yeah, so those things probably go between $25,000 to $30,000 just for the figure itself. Yeah.
Can I buy you?
Coming at it. You could ask my wife. I bet someday she'd be more than happy to give me away. And then, yes, I have. So, I didn't buy with the intention of selling, but now, because of bounty box and stuff like that, I have so much Boba Fett stuff, and then I will raffle it or do giveaways or whatever. And then a lot of people are like, well, can you sign it? And I'm like, oh, yeah, sure. So then there's a lot of stuff in my collection now that I sign. And, you know, that does help the price go up a little bit. So, to answer your question, yeah, I have.
Thank you.
And it's kind of crazy to think that, you know, you could buy something related to Boba Fett and then sign it, and it is worth more.
That's
You
right.
know, and it's crazy to me, you know. And every time,
celebrity has its perks.
yeah, and every time I do it, I still think to myself, this is crazy. You know, like, even just as a toy collector now, you know, offloading and letting go of some of my stuff, it's an amazing thing that people are even willing to, you know, pay even a little more just for my stuff because it came from me and I've had it in my collection for 20 years or something like that. So, gotta keep collecting though.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
the chase. There's nothing like the chase of collecting. It's an addiction. Hello.
I don't see you in Star Wars. I didn't see you upstairs, so I could talk to you then. But that's what you said, talk to you the most. There you go. Now, what character were you in Star Wars? I didn't see you in Star Wars.
Do you
So-
want to see his figurine?
Hey, that's a great pickup line. Well, you know, on Tinder, I just put up my figurine. I played the character Boba Fett.
Wow.
So he was a young clone of Jango Fett.
Uh-huh.
And in the prequels, he was the only unaltered clone that Jango Fett requested. But then as you start moving forward in the Disney era and the Bad Batch, he has a sister. And her name is Omega. So sometimes I walk around my house calling myself Alpha. Which I don't let my wife hear very much. But he was a clone that ends up growing up, which we first see in Empire Strikes Back, as this very mysterious, slow-moving bounty hunter.
Okay.
And he has all these gadgets that really...
Kind of looks like that.
Oh, yeah. There he is right there. Thank you, buddy. I'm all trying to explain him, you know, and I'm like, just point at that guy. Thank you. Oh, as an actor, you know, I'm trying to paint the picture for you guys, you know, like, no, just show us him. So that's him right there. He grows up to being that badass guy. And then he came from a group of different bounty hunters. Bounty hunter's a guy who goes out and he collects galactic credits for pay. And out of all the other bounty hunters, Boba Fett just became loved by the fan base. And I mean, he only had about 2 seconds of screen time, really, in the original series. And because of the love and the passion from the fan base, George Lucas decided to come back in the newer 3 that George Lucas did. Wait, did he do?
You know, George Lucas,
Yeah.
Hero, and
He did
all great.
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
All iconic.
Yeah.
Sorry. I got lost in my own brain. There's so much Star Wars now. I'm like, who created who? What now? So then they brought me back, and I got to run around a couple of the planets playing Boba Fett, which was pretty awesome.
Did you do any more characters like that one?
They brought me back in the Bad Batch, and I played a character called Mox. I was also in the Clone Wars. I got to play a couple of the young clones and Boba Fett again. And then they brought me in the Lego Skywalker Saga series, the video game, and I got to voice the original Boba Fett in that.
So do you think you want to branch out or just stick with Disney and video?
You know, I would love to do anything. It's just I kind of got stuck
That's what that
with the fact that I loved Boba Fett more than I really should have maybe. And I surrounded my whole life with the hopes of the reprising of his character. So I've been to so many different acting classes and stuff like that, and learned from so many great teachers. But
Right.
I always try to learn more about how I would reprise Boba Fett. Yeah, so
That's
mean,
right.
I love my father Django Fett or Tim Whittemarson, you know, but Boba Fett had this way about moving, he had this way about speaking, you know. His voice, it was, every line was a throwaway line, which I realized, you know, it wasn't, I'm Boba Fett, it was, I'm Boba Fett, you know, and it just, that way to deliver it was just so much more powerful.
The way, yeah, more powerful way, yeah.
Yeah, so I've just sat around really waiting for that call that I was going to get to reprise him, you know, between the Clone Wars era and maybe hopefully Empire Strikes Back, but we never know. We'll have to
No,
wait and
we'll
see.
pray over it. Maybe you get it.
I hope you do.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, man.
Well, I mean, you stayed in good graces with Lucasfilms. I mean, you were at the Acolyte premiere.
Yeah.
And obviously you're bringing back. So I mean, there's always hope.
Yeah, I brought my son out for the first time, and that was the one thing I that was kind of a downer about it, is that he's 6 years old, and Star Wars, especially reading the prequels, was so colorful, so light, and we went through the red carpet, and I finally let him, you know, have his face shown to the
Right.
world, and we watched the opening episode, and he's just sitting there like sinking into his terror, and I just looked over, and I was like, "You all right?" He's like, "Daddy, I want to go home."
Oh.
And I'm like, "All right, you know what? You've helped me out with my anxiety,
Right.
and, you know, helped me walk the red carpet. Like, you know, if you want to go home, let's go home."
How everyone felt at the premiere of The Acolyte.
But as a fan, you know, I was sitting in my mind going, "Okay, I'll wait another 2 weeks to watch it at home on TV." You know what I mean? But I had to support my son. You know, and
Yeah.
it was a little too dark and scary for him. So that's one of the things I was kind of hoping that they would go off of the prequels. You know, the prequels had such light colors. You know,
Right.
and the sets were just so. It was something you could still sit down and
Right.
watch with your little kids.
Sir.
People don't know as much, but Boba Fett was actually first introduced in the animated episode
Yeah.
of Star Wars
You
Holiday
got it.
Special.
The holiday special, yeah, riding that like long neck dinosaur character thing
Yeah.
with his I don't even know what you call it. So I actually have a holiday special armor.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, somebody you guys,
Like full
my character.
full costume, like full.
So I got a tailor-made Empire Strikes Back Boba Fett armor, kind of like his, but mine's just slightly different variant colors because they changed up the colors. And then I have a holiday special.
That's
armor.
awesome.
Yeah, that's tailored
That's
to
fun.
me. Yeah.
Well, my question is, can you tell us about being on Hercules?
Yeah, I mean, I was so young that it was the very first American production that I had done. And they were just, Xena was just being aired at the same time. So we were losing quite a few of the writers and the wardrobe people and stuff like that over to Xena. And that's why they look so similar. It's because they basically stole a lot of the people off Hercules and took them over to Xena. But it was just a cool opportunity. It was a couple of days. I got to work with some great actors that, you know, as a young kid, it's been very weird that I haven't worked in very many things that involved other little kids. So majority of my young career, I was working with adults. And a lot of these adults, they just treated me like an equal, you know, and that's one of the things that in the business of acting or entertainment, at such a young age, you're put on the same platform as an adult, and you grow up really quickly. But it was really awesome. I played a character called Zaylin. You'd have to go find the episode. I don't remember what episode. Maybe it's on my IMDb. I'll get like 5 more people saying, "Yes, I got a little more popularity on IMDb this week." That's what I should stop pushing, huh? It's my IMDb. Like, wow, Daniel's like going up like 3 points.
Get your star rating up a little bit. Yeah,
you got it. But check out. I think they have the episode on IMDb, and then you can look up anything on YouTube nowadays.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Besides Boba Fett and Hercules, what was your favorite role?
Star Wars is always going to be my favorite role, no matter what I do in life. Playing Boba Fett, the opportunity he brought to me and my family is like no other. but I played a little thief in a TV show called Shortland Street for quite a few months, and that was pretty fun. You know, I didn't grow up a thief, but I had to learn how to be a thief through acting. So that was a pretty cool role. One of my favorite roles ever was a great movie called Sharknado. Yeah, I need a round of applause on that one. Thank you so much. No.
Yeah, Tara's here. Why don't we have a Sharknado
She didn't even
panel?
know I'm in the movie. I don't think she knows she's even hit again. So the funny thing is, right? I get this call, and they're like, "Oh, hey, we want you to come and play a role in our movie Sharknado." I'm like, "Great, another acting gig. I could use it for the bills." And then I find out that they originally called Peter Mayhew first, and they're like, "Hello, Mr. Peter Mayhew, we would like you to come." "Oh, no, I don't want to do that. But call my friend Daniel Logan. I'm sure he'll want the role." So Peter Mayhew actually hooked me up with the role, because they wanted a pilot, right? And obviously Chewie is the pilot of Millennium Falcon, and he's like, "Well, call Daniel Logan. Obviously, he's technically a pilot of the Slave One, too." So they were like, "Ah." And then they came up with the idea of calling me Captain Fett or something like that, and I had a cigar in my mouth. I looked pretty badass, actually. I actually survived the Sharknado. Not many people survived the Sharknado. So there might be a reprisal soon. You never know. Sharknado 25.
Thank you very much.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. And I want to tell you, you got an amazing tie-dye shirt.
Thank you.
That's really awesome. Anybody else? Any more questions?
We got one more here.
Oh, a beautiful fairy.
So you talk about like wanting to reprise Boba Fett. Did they contact you at all or talk to you about like doing the show, or what's going on?
Well, you know what's funny is that when the book of Boba Fett came out, or started being filmed, I've just become beloved by a lot of Lucasfilm and the people who work behind the scenes. And I get this call. I'm still not going to say the name. Lucasfilm kept hounding me on it. Who's the person? And I felt like I was, in court, on testifying. I'm like, look, I'm not saying anything. Like, I'm sorry, but just like I was taught by George Lucas, you know what I mean? Like, if someone comes to me in confidence or there's a secret that I'm meant to keep, I am not going to divulge that information because it's not fair, especially when someone was looking out for me. So I got called and they were like, dude, they're filming this show, this Boba Fett show. And I'm like, they're filming a Boba Fett show? And they're like, yeah, dude. And like, there's this like guy, I don't recognize him. Like, they've recasted this Boba Fett guy. And I'm like, no, are you kidding me? Because I vouched for years and years that if Boba Fett was able to come back, if he's younger, he should be me, and if he's a little older, he should be played by Tamwina Morrison, because technically he is a clone template of Jango Fett, which is now Boba Fett, which only makes sense. And I'm like, they didn't hire me, they didn't hire Tim, what's going on? So I called Lucasfilm, and I was like, hey, look, I just want to call because, first of all, the fan base can be very brutal. You know what I mean? And you haven't given me a chance to prepare myself for what could come brutally from the fan base for me not being even involved or having an opportunity to play the role. And I'm like, and then you really recast someone else that, now we're going to have another Boba Fett in the family, which I'll welcome, but, you didn't even consider Tamwina Morrison. And they're like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, well, it's someone new that I've heard. And they're like, no, Daniel, Tim's playing Boba Fett. And I was like, what? Oh, okay, well, I'm not so angry about it anymore.
Yeah.
But damn, you didn't hire me. So then I knew almost about a year before it came out that he was going to be playing it. And so I cried myself to sleep for months. Like, no, just jokes. Like, oh. No, but, could you imagine finding someone stole your job, a role at your job, and you weren't able to tell anybody that this particular person's coming in to take your role or your job? You know what I mean? But you knew their name and you knew who they were, so it would have been easy for me to go online and be like, guys, they're bringing out a Boba Fett show and Tamwina Morrison's playing the character. But because I grew up in George Lucas's era of Star Wars, you have to have respect for the fans to allow them to have surprises and secrets that still evolve with this franchise. So I wasn't able to tell anyone, and I just sat there thinking, man, that kind of sucks. Like, I wish I would have gotten at least an audition
Right.
to be able to play him.
Yeah.
But then they gave me a call back a couple months later, and they're like, hey, Daniel, we want you to come and be part of the show, Book of Boba Fett. I'm like, yeah, sweet. When do you want me on set? I'll be there. I can be there any day. Even if my mom's funeral's tomorrow, I'll be there, you know? And they were like, no. We don't need you to come and film. We got everything we need. But we're just letting you know we're going to be bringing you back. And I'm like, what? How does this make sense? And they're like, but don't worry, we'll pay you for it. And I'm like, oh, okay, great, sweet. Do nothing and get paid for it? Sounds like the greatest job ever. So they actually deepfaked my face, which was one of the very first deepfakes that they did in a production, right? And then that's where SAG ended up having all these issues. Well, I had no issue because they paid me. They paid me pretty well to do nothing, you know? And I'm like, yeah, you can use that face, no problem. And then they used the flashbacks. So some of those flashbacks were from different angles that we had originally filmed in Attack of the Clones. And then one of them, there was two shots that weren't me. There was a shot where they look over the shoulder and the other kid, me, I guess, us, are holding the helmet. And it's the over the shoulder. And then when I jump out of the bed and then I go to run towards the window, those two bits weren't me. But everything else was old stock footage from Attack of the Clones. Yeah, so it was pretty cool to see like different angles of that one scene
Right.
that has become so popular and so famous. You know what I mean? And the one crazy part is that I don't think they've ever done a flashback in Star Wars.
I
You guys
think you're
thinking
right.
about it,
Yeah,
right?
no, yeah, I think you're right.
Right? And my scene has technically become the first flashback in the Star Wars line of history. You know, so it must have made such an impact in the movie
Right.
and on the fan base that they decided to flash back to those times and to those
Right.
eras. I would like to tell you about my Book of Boba Fett that I wanted to see, but I don't know if they're going to go with those versions, so I can't say much. We actually did the Clone Wars too, and we did a whole season where there was like 5 or 6 episodes that they didn't air of Boba Fett doing bounties. He got his armor, as we saw in the Cad Bane and him duel, that's the unfinished, unaired episode. He went from having a blue jumpsuit on, all of a sudden, fully armored. So there was all these episodes that led up to that. He didn't just one day just go into his closet and grab the
Right.
outfit and put it back on. And I wish I could tell you guys those storylines too.
Yeah.
But you never know how they're going to interweave them back
Right.
into the universe. But if they don't call me, you bet I'm telling all those stories.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
I ain't holding those secrets anymore. I've been holding them too long.
Okay, time for one more quick question.
You're welcome.
If you could just expand on any of the differences between like the live action versus the stuff you did in the Clone Wars and stuff.
That's a great question. So as you guys see, I have ADHD and it's my special power, but I move a lot, you know? So with theatrical acting, I can take you with me like, oh wow, it was this big, and you know what I mean? It was this small. Where with voice acting, everything has to be honed into the voice. It was this big, it was this small, you know? And I didn't have the training that everyone else on the Clone Wars had. So walking into the Clone Wars was so nerve-wracking because I felt like I belonged, but I didn't feel like I had worked the voice acting world long enough to be able to stand in this, you know, arena of the same as the rest. They all did an amazing job. But what happened was, in the Clone Wars, they brought every single actor that was in every single scene, if they could, into the same audio booth. So there would be like Ashley there, Matt here, me, Corey, Dee, and then we would read through the script together. So she would say his line, he would say his line, he would say his line, and it comes to my line. And then we go back and forth. So it became so smooth as we're all just going through the Clone Wars scripts together that's why it sounded so great when it came to the finished product. because we were all in the same sound booths together. Where usually on other voice work I've done, I've been in the booth by myself, and I'm trying to match the levels of everybody else. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But when you're in the booth with everyone else, you're feeling and feeding off their energy and their levels and everything else that they're going off. So then you might have walked into the booth with one way of delivering, but then you hear someone else's delivery and you're like, oh, this is how I think that should be delivered to that. And that's why I think the Clone Wars was so amazing. On set, you know, when Ewan would come to the door, you know, and I'm like, yep. And then, oh, but he's your father here, that whole scene. Well, Rena Owens wasn't even there. Ton Wee wasn't even there when we went to do the actual shots. So I had to try to figure out her eye line and then come back to Ewan and then go back to the same eye line where she didn't even exist. But, you know, could you imagine if when we're in the room and there's Jango Fett, Obi-Wan, and Ton Wee and myself, if I would have looked at Ton Wee and then looked back at Ewan, looked at my father, and then looked back at Ton Wee, like, that would not have made sense because the eye line would have been totally off. So in my little crazy ADHD brain, I had to realize, okay, you look at that spot, look back, and when you look back, try to remember that same spot. Because even if I looked slightly down a little bit, it would have taken away from the power of how tall she really was.
Right.
You know? And then when it was the close-ups on my face, well, the other actors weren't behind. And then some other guy would just be delivering the line. So then it changes a little bit of your acting, because when Ewan's giving you the line, it's got that accent, it's got everything else. And then other people are like, okay, is your father here? May we see him? You know what I mean? And you're like, yep. Oh, and you got to continue trying to pull that character that you had when they were there. But anytime that I was meant to be an eyeline, they're like, no, Daniel, you can go back to your room now, and we don't need you. And I'm like, no, I'll stand there, I'll deliver the line. Because I just wanted to keep working, you know? I didn't want to go back and sit down. What am I going to do with ADHD in a room by myself? Like, so I would stand there, and I would read the lines to them, you know, and I think they really appreciated it, you know, because most people are like, all right, I'm done. It's not on me anymore. I'm going to go back and call me when you need me again. But they had a whole bowl of candy, and I'm like, all right, give me more candy. I'll stay on set, you know.
Well,
So,
Daniel,
those were the difference.
we've taken up much more of your time than you got money to go make. So go, and you got collectors stuff to go buy. So
Yeah, I can't walk through those booths anymore. Yeah, my wife tells me, don't go there. I'm like, oh, okay. I still come home with something. I come home with these little badges now from the 501st. So.
nice. That's nice. Those guys are great.
Home with a lightsaber. There's a guy selling lightsabers.
You know, I've done that to myself, and you can't imagine walking through an airport with the lightsaber sticking out of your backpack, you know, and they're like, oh, like, yeah.
Everyone, please give Daniel Logan a round of applause. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, guys.
And go see him at his booth.
Yeah, or I just want to say thank you guys for taking your time.